It's Bullseye. I'm Jesse Thorn. Next up, an old favorite here on Bullseye, Jonathan Coulton. A dozen years ago, he was a programmer. And one day, he decided to quit his job and take up music full time. He started maybe one of the most ambitious songwriting projects ever. Every week for a year, he'd write, record, and release a new song. He called it Thing a Week. It was a huge hit. And when the novelty of a guy writing 52 songs in a year wore off, people realized that a lot of the work he did was actually great, catchy, compelling, genuinely funny. He wrote songs like Code Monkey and Re Your Brains. Even at perhaps his creative low ebb, an acoustic cover of Baby Got Back that ended up getting ripped off on Glee. There's always been an underlying sadness, sense of tragedy in some of his music. But in the last few years, that has come to the foreground. It's a little less Weird Al, a little more Randy Newman maybe. His latest album came out earlier this summer. It's called Solid State. It's kind of a dystopian concept album about the future of the internet, about social media, about pictures of cats. He also just put out a companion graphic novel book with the same title. But it might not be the kind of music you expect when I say the phrase dystopian concept album about the future of the internet and social media. Let's take a listen to a song from the record. It's called All This Time.
So long since anyone has seen out past the edge of our zone. One of the friendlier machines says I should leave it alone. But I wonder anyway about some things I shouldn't say. What if Kurt smile doesn't make it? What if all the switches get stuck on destroy? When the shuttle goes, we won't take it. When the final countermeasures are deployed, all we'll have is all this time. All we'll have is all this time. All this time.
Jonathan Coulton, welcome back to Bullseye. It's good to see you, pal.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Congratulations on the softest rocking sci-fi concept album ever recorded.
Thank you very much. I know usually sci-fi concept albums rock just a little bit harder.
I did.
On
I think I heard one electric guitar solo in there at one point.
There's a couple. There's one really rocking one. But yeah, it's, you know me. I'm a softie.
That's absolutely the case. How did you stumble into making a concept record?
Well, you know, I as always, when I decided it was time to work on a new record, I just started writing songs, the things that I was interested in. And the first few that I wrote, I realized had a bit of a theme, and the theme seemed to be the internet sucks now, which is a little off-brand for me. So I wasn't sure quite what to do with that. But, you know, I kind of went with it and kept writing about it, and it felt like the more I thought about it, the more I realized, yeah, that is kind of true. I do have this. I've become sort of disenchanted with a lot of things about the internet in a way that I used to feel extremely positive. I now have a lot of negative feelings about it, and so I followed that for a while, and then at some point, I was working with my producer's a guy named Christian Casson, who was my drummer in the last few tours that I did, and it was just me and him working on stuff. And I had written this song called Solid State, and he suggested that we do a reprise of it later in the record. And once that was there, it was kind of like, all right, well, what's in between, and why are we reprising, and what are the questions we're asking and answering over the course of the record? And then I really did sit down with a bunch of pieces of paper with the song titles on them, and they were color-coded with the kind of tempo and whether they were up or down or happy or sad and what characters I thought might be speaking. And I kind of arranged things until I had a bit of a story arc. And then I filled in the gaps with a few more songs. And so it was kind of an accidental, I sort of backed into it accidentally.
Is the internet worse now, or are you older than you used to be?
I think probably both are true.
I mean, I guess literally speaking, you're definitely older than you
I'm
used to be.
definitely older, but that certainly is affecting how I experience the internet. I mean, I'm of an age where there was no internet, and then there was in my life. I think that's very different from people who grow up with it. And certainly I have a different perspective on it. And yeah, no, I'm an old person. I feel that more and more, that there's a distance between me and people who are a couple of decades younger than me in terms of how we experience the world. But I do think the internet was supposed to, I mean, the way I always thought of it, it was going to save us. It was going to connect us in these really powerful ways, and it was going to free us from capitalism and the middleman, and we were going to, all the creators were going to be able to make their things and publish them and distribute them themselves, and we were going to have a new level of understanding as we connected with people who weren't like us, who were different from us around the world. And some of that happened, but then, I think that was a short-lived, false utopian vision. And then suddenly everybody was on the internet, and now we're all just yelling at each other, and we're still the same nasty, frightened people that we were before there was an internet. It's just that now we all have these giant megaphones, and this sense that the person that we're screaming at in all caps is not a real person somehow. So, I think, I don't know. I think I feel like we have some growing up to do. And I feel like one of the things that's happening is that the internet is demonstrating to us the areas in which we need to grow up and get better.
In the graphic novel of Solid State, which you kind of outlined and then the comic writer Matt Fraction wrote, one of the things that is going on in the near future dystopia that we see is the building of walls. And it seems like that is one of the things that the generation of idealistic internet creators did not realize was going to be so central to the internet, that Facebook, for example, would be so deeply invested in making a product that keeps people within its walls.
Yeah. Well, I think there's always been that tension. And I think that is one of the things that has really changed about the internet, is that it was such a wild west when people were first experimenting with how to use that medium. There weren't a lot of walls. You could go anywhere, and it was kind of thrilling and exciting, and you really were making these random connections with other people and with other ideas. And then, I remember the days of AOL, which stands for America Online, which is an old internet company. But it was one of the first ways.
Well, they were more of a compact disc read-only memory
That's right.
manufacturer.
That's right. They were, in the early days, that was, for many people, the only way that they could get online, or the easiest way they could get online, is through AOL. And I remember at that time that all of the internet purists, all of the idealists were saying, well, this is just a walled garden. This is not the internet. It's the fake internet. It's like this safe place that's it protects you, and it sort of gives you the things that it thinks you want, and that's not what the internet is. And now, you look at almost every successful internet company, and that's what it does. It's a wall. Facebook is AOL. It's just a more efficient AOL, I think. But it is still this walled garden, and it still sets up these systems by which you can stay safe in your area of interests, and stay safe with the people that you are immediately connected to, and yeah. So, and I think there still is that tension of wanting to. The internet works best when there aren't any walls, except if you're trying to make money off of it, in which case you want as many walls as possible.
I mean, I think pursuant to your interests as a songwriter, historically speaking, one of the interesting things about the internet economy in the 21st century is that it is so focused on managing through software emotion. And that's one of the things that we see in the comic especially.
Yeah. No, I think that's very true, and it's all, it all comes down to, eventually to monetization and to getting people to participate in a certain way. I mean, in the comic there's a sort of thumbs up and thumbs down mechanism in this dystopia that everybody uses in real time for the people all around them, which is kind of like, what would happen if you took Facebook likes and made them part of the real world always. And it's a kind of terrifying, awful idea. But, I've had this reaction to these things, just thinking about my own experience on, say, Instagram. I got into the habit of, liking certain photos and deciding to not like other photos. And then I started to really think, like, why am I not liking these other ones? Because these people are my friends too, and don't I want to help them? But I can't just like everything because that's the same as liking nothing. And then I realized that I was thinking so much about it, about doing this thing, that I have no personal interest. It's this company that wants me to do it so that they can create more engagement, so that they can create more ads. And then I was like, why am I working for Instagram? So now I don't like anything, which is a weird sentence to say. But on Instagram, I just stopped doing it because it's like it's a weird, meaningless thing, and the fact that it is like just that word.
Your career was transformed, created in part by virality.
Indeed.
You had a project where you wrote a song a week for a year.
That's right.
Many of your most successful songs, the ones that made your name and earned your first fans, were songs that had those qualities of viral humor, which they were like surprising and affirmed people's identities in an interesting way, so on and so forth. And I don't know that was your intent with them. It may have been sometimes, especially when you're writing a song a week, right?
Well, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Like this week, if I've got a cute idea, then I'm writing a cute song because I'm not waiting for the...
No.
So do you feel complicit in that economy for that reason, that is the thing that created your career in large part?
Yeah, I suppose. I think that when I first started doing that, I didn't expect much success, and I had a couple of things that had that viral hit factor early on. And it's a really addictive thing when you are, especially when you're doing this creative project and you want people to hear about it and you want more and more listeners and more fans. Anytime you do a thing that has that kind of viral success, you're like, well, geez, let's do that again, because that felt great. It felt like I was doing my job. It felt like I was being loved by these people that I don't know. That's, it's a really good thing for the ego and hopefully for the bottom line as you look at look around at your family who's hoping that you can make money.
Well, on that note, I'm going to ask you to play a song from that you wrote in those first few years of your career.
Yeah.
And you wrote some genuine novelty songs in those days, not a ton of them. But, often I think when you perform one of your funnier songs, the new audience is there to laugh at it and enjoy the novelty of it. Mm-hmm. And the old audience is there to share an emotional connection with the underlying tragedy.
Yeah, well, that's my favorite kind of song, is the one that has a funny candy shell, but is filled with a aching sadness.
Well, let's take a listen. This is my guest, Jonathan Coulton. He's going to sing his song, Shop Vac.
Took the freeway out of town, found a place to settle down. Got a driveway and a swing set and a dog. Got your very own bathroom. I got my very own workshop in the basement. We sit around staring at the wall to wall. Take field trips to our favorite mall. Waiting for the day when all the kids grow up and leave us here. If you need me, I'll be downstairs with the shop vac. You can call, but I probably won't hear you because it's loud with the shop vac on. But you'll be okay, cause you'll be upstairs with the TV. You can cry and I probably won't hear you because it's loud with the shop vac on. We hung a flag above the door. Checked out the gourmet grocery store. Got a mower I can ride around the yard. But we haven't got real friends, and now even the fake ones have stopped calling. Maybe if you forget to hide the keys, I'll take a ride to Applebee's. Come home drunk on daiquiris and throw up on the neighbor's lawn. If you need me, I'll be downstairs with the shop vac. You can call, but I probably won't hear you because it's loud with the shop vac on. But you'll be okay, cause you'll be upstairs with the TV. You can cry and I probably won't hear you because it's loud with the shop vac on. I like the Starbucks here, that's better than the other one, cause the other one's not as good. They really need to put a light there, cause it's hard to turn, it's hard to make a left turn. When it's time to go to bed, I'm still awake inside my head, floating up above the house and looking down. Guess I gotta go back there. Guess there never was any other answer. And as the freeway hums, the cars go by, the headlights roll across the sky, many miles away, and I can see them speeding through the dark. If you need me, I'll be downstairs with the shop vac. You can call, but I probably won't hear you because it's loud with the shop vac on. You'll be okay, cause you'll be upstairs with the TV. You can cry and I probably won't hear you because it's loud with the shop vac on.
You're listening to Bullseye. I'm Jesse Thorn. My guest is the singer Jonathan Coulton. His new album, Solid State, is out now. You have also, through the past 10 years of your career, been on essentially a committed mission to move towards sincere, uncloaked emotion in your songs.
Yeah, I guess that's true. You know, I, as you say, the earlier work, I think, has many layers of irony to it and ways of protecting me, Jonathan Coulton, from copping to the emotions that I actually feel by grafting them onto other characters and by creating these unreliable narrators who are protected even from themselves, from their own feelings. You know, I mean, I think that's a really useful songwriting tool, and for me, I love those kinds of songs where they do have these layers, and you're getting at the truth and of who this person is and how they're feeling in this subterranean, secret way. It's a very exciting intellectual exercise. But you know, as I've gotten older and had to go back and say, oh, when I wrote that song about that self-loathing giant squid, that was actually me. A lot of those feelings were my feelings, because it always comes as a surprise. That's the weird thing. You would think I would know because I'm writing it, but I don't. I only find out later that it was about me in this way. You know, you would think I would understand the mechanism a little better, especially after it had happened a few times. And it's true. I've gotten less funny as the years have worn on, and you know, there aren't really any funny songs on this record. I think there are a couple of funny lines, but they're darkly funny.
Do you want to sing a sincere song from the new album, Solid State?
I do. I would very much like to. This is a song when my wife was a young person. She got a tattoo. It was just over her left shoulder, and it was some flowers and some vines. And it was this sort of spontaneous thing. She always wanted to have gotten a tattoo, but it wasn't a particularly meaningful. She went to the thing and looked through the book and picked it out and put it on. And when I first met her and saw that tattoo, I asked her about the tattoo, and she said, ugh, you know, I've never really liked that tattoo. I regretted it almost immediately. It doesn't mean anything to me. It's just the idea of a tattoo. And when she turned 40, she wanted to mark the occasion by getting a new tattoo. So she went to the tattoo parlor, and she had them tattoo quotes around that tattoo. So now it is a tattoo of the idea of a tattoo, and it sort of feels much more correct. And I just love that idea of taking an old thing that is maybe a mistake and sort of massaging it and incorporating it in a way that works. So this is called Your Tattoo.
Black and blue, every time I lean into you, you think the words don't mean what they do, killing me so slow. So it's home instead, memorize your scars in the bed, making me see stars in my head, baby you don't know. One rough summer and too much sun, the lines get blurry and the colors run, and the red bleeds out with the blue. A picture in the shape of the way it hurt, planning an escape from beneath your shirt. Do you know I love your tattoo, your tattoo. Your tattoo. You were there, little sparks and wire in the air, everything on fire everywhere, punishment and crime. It's black and white, it's keeping me up late every night, thinking I can't wait, but I might, everything in time. Gray gives way to the deepest black, promises you made and can't take back. When you look too long, you see through. Over on the edge where the ink is thin, coming in close against your skin. Do you know I love your tattoo, your tattoo. Your tattoo.
Jonathan Coulton singing a song from his new album, Solid State, on Bullseye. My dad used to tell me stories about his career, which for decades was in the Veterans Peace Movement. And for a time, the group that he helped start were number 2 on the FBI's list of domestic threats to national security.
Fantastic.
Tip of the hat to the Black Panthers for locking down number 1, but
always number 1.
For a minute, they were number 2. So their phone calls would be monitored. Mm-hmm. And the technology for monitoring the phone calls was imperfect. So they would talk to the people that were monitoring their phone calls sometimes when they noticed them on the line, because you could hear them click into the line.
Hey, Tom.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Morning.
And they could see the guys who had taken, the FBI guys who were
up on a telephone pole in a suit.
Yeah, like literally. So he was like, yeah, they would move in across the street.
Sure.
And we would all go wave at them.
Yeah, sure.
One of the things that I've taken away from my dad's career in this work that was 1,000 times more treacherous and intense than this work that I've chosen is that sometimes when those things are very treacherous, the most appropriate thing to do is goof around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really essential. It's important to tell jokes in this time, in these difficult times. But boy, it's hard. Yeah. I have great respect for anybody who is continuing to make any sort of efforts to do creative work, because it's gotten pretty hard.
You have a song on the album Solid State, which is also a sequence in the graphic novel called Pictures of Cats.
Yeah.
Do you think that pictures of cats are a blessed respite from the problems of the world, or do you think they're the narcotic of the people?
Can it be both? I think I wrote that song the day that Robin Williams died. I had actually gone away on a little songwriting retreat because I was working on songs for this album, and the first day was the day that Robin Williams died, and I was doing what I always do in these situations, which is I was checking Twitter constantly. There was some question as to whether or not it was a suicide, and a bunch of think pieces about depression and about his depression, and I was very sad about it, and I was reading a lot about it, and I was really focused on it, and that's when I said, I don't have to know every piece of information about this right now, and I don't have to read everything, every RIP tweet that people write. I thought a lot about something that Sean Nelson, the singer from Harvey Danger, said after one of these tragedies on Twitter. He said, you don't have to say anything. And I thought that was really interesting and instructive. So I wrote that song about this idea that the tendency is to really dig in to the thing on the internet that is hurting you. But sometimes you got to remember that you could just go to another place and look at pictures of cats for a while, and I think that's okay.
Well, Jonathan Coulton, I always appreciate you being on the show. So thank you very much for coming and singing and talking.
Thank you so much for having me, Jesse.
Jonathan Coulton. His new album is called Solid State. There's also a graphic novel of the same name. It is out now, and it is spectacularly beautiful. Let's listen to one more song from the album, the one we were just talking about, actually. It's called Pictures of Cats.
All at once, it fills up my feet. More bedrooms that I didn't need. I can't stop reading, but I wish that I didn't know. Still too soon, there's not much to say. They don't know, we talk anyway. All of the pieces and none of the places they go. So I am looking at pictures of cats. I am looking at pictures of